You can try to hold back the wave, but they will always wash upon your feet. Two waters flow with a barrier in between, the salty sea and rivers fresh and sweet. Two waters flow with a barrier in between.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to a new episode of Contemporary Fiqh Issues. We have with us again in the studio today our special guest, Sheikh Asem bin Luqman al-Hakim. Sheikh Asem, welcome.
Jazakumullah khair, and thank you for having me.
Barakallahu fikum. Sheikh Asem is one of the well-known speakers and callers who has traveled extensively across the globe, delivering lectures and classes on Islam to both Muslims and non-Muslims alike. Sheikh Asem, the issue of cosmetic surgery or cosmetics or beautification in Islam is one that is new to many Muslims due to the fact that we have many new procedures and many new ways of beautifying oneself that were not necessarily found within the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So in order to help us understand this, inshallah, we would like to go to a report that we filmed with Dr. Ibrahim Kamil regarding this issue, inshallah, and then with your permission we'd like you to discuss the issue with us and with the viewers.
By all means.
Barakallahu fikum. Let's go to the report, inshallah.
Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today I'll speak about plastic surgery. Firstly, I want to introduce myself. Dr. Ibrahim Kamil, consultant of plastic surgery and laser in Egypt. Firstly, plastic surgery is a huge branch in medicine. It's recent branch, as we know, but it's very, very important branch in medicine. The aesthetic surgeons like me and the plastic surgeon generally, and aesthetic surgery especially like me, have an important knowledge about this branch all over the body. We interest in anatomy and physiology of the body in different areas in the body. The plastic surgery is a very important branch in medicine, as I told from about minutes, but most important branches in plastic surgery is burn treatment. We have a large number of patients in burn, so burn is very, very important in plastic surgery. Also congenital anomalies in child who born with congenital anomalies like cleft lip, cleft palate. These diseases have very many difficult and many troubles and problems in these childs. So we consider about the treatment of this study, and the study is this by heart. Also, we have an interest in hand injuries and also in facial fractures and maxillofacial fractures, like fracture of the mandible, fracture of the face, fractures in different area of the skull. Also the laser surgeries, which is very important surgery now in plastic surgery. But the most famous branch in plastic surgery is aesthetic surgery. Aesthetic surgery has a very worldwide distribution all over the world because many patients need this surgery, like rhinoplasty, the beauty of the nose, which is very important for our face. Also treatment of obesity by different lines of treatment, like mediotherapy injection, like liposuction, like abdominoplasty, removal of the fat during the surgery or with non-surgical maneuvers. Also, we interest in hair transplantation and treatment of hair growth. Also, this area has many people need this surgery or this treatment. So this treatment, one of our interests in our branch. Also, the treatment of wrinkles all over the face, treatment of the wrinkles in the nasolabial folds in the face, and facial augmentation, treatment of the thinning of the face, and also treatment of wrinkles all over in the forehead. These areas may give an sort of sadness look for these patients. So it may affect the psychological aspect of the patients. So these patients may suffer from psychological troubles, may suffer from social troubles. So when these patients come to us as an aesthetic surgeons or plastic surgeons, we give him some sort of special care for there, because they have social trouble and psychological troubles, because hair shape or their face may be changed from different areas. So we treat the wrinkles by different maneuvers, like Botox. May inject different areas, like different materials like hyaluronic acid. We may inject mesotherapy. So we as an aesthetic surgeon, we consider different aims. Number one is the psychological aspect of the patients. Number two is the shape, and number three is health. So we consider three concepts or three target or aims in the different people comes to us. I advise people who want to do an aesthetic surgery, they must choose a specialist doctor or specialist physician in this field, because it's very important field for practice. So if you want to do an aesthetic surgery, you must choose a specialist aesthetic surgeon, has a big experience or a large experience in this operation, or also or any different treatment you need. Many people need an aesthetic surgery, and also many people need a plastic surgery as an important surgery for them to treat different areas like post-burn scars, to treat congenital anomalies in their body or whatever like that. Any surgery in plastic surgery is a very important surgery. We do this surgery, but we don't change the shape for the people, or we change the change of the shape for body. We only add a beauty for the shape of the face or the body, but we don't change.
Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Sheikh Asem, we just saw the report regarding cosmetic surgery. Now, as we know, cosmetic surgery is a branch of general beautification in its general term. What is the ruling on beautification in Islam? What is the definition of beautification? Where is Islam's role in this issue?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulil ameen nabiyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Islam adores beautification, providing that it follows the instructions of Islam. So it is not acquired for its own sake, the sake of beautification, and it's not neglected because Islam does not like beautification. It has to go under the boundaries and the guidance of Islam. And what illustrates this most is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is in the Sahih, where he stated that no person with the weight of an atom of ignorance in his heart would enter paradise. And this is a dire and serious warning from the Prophet ﷺ. So one of the companions stood up and said, "O Prophet of Allah, I'd like my dress to be beautiful and my shoes to be beautiful." And is this considered to be out of arrogance? The Prophet ﷺ answered him with this beautiful statement. He said, Allah is beautiful and Allah loves beauty. Arrogance is when you look down at people and you reject the truth. You do not accept it. This is the definition of arrogance. The Prophet stated that Allah, the Almighty, is beautiful and that He loves beauty. But we have to be careful. What kind of beauty does Allah love? Is it the beauty of nudity? As we see now, the role models in the West, the supermodels, when they expose their bodies and men look at them with their tongues dangling. Is this the beauty that Allah loves? Or the beauty of being wearing the proper dress, having the proper conduct, as mentioned in the Quran, that a slave believer is better at the sight of Allah than a disbeliever who's so beautiful? Then definitely the beauty that counts at the sight of Allah is the Islamic way or the Islamic concept of beauty.
The inner beauty or the beauty of the soul and one's faith is the most...
Definitely this is one part of it, but does this mean that we neglect the other part? Surely not. And how would we know? The Prophet ﷺ saw a man once who entered his gathering in the masjid, and the guy had untidy hair and clothes that were not clean and proper. So the Prophet looked at him and said, ﷺ, do you have money? He said, yes, I have cattle, I have sheep, I have camels. Then the Prophet ﷺ said to the man who understood what the Prophet ﷺ meant when he asked him about money, are you a beggar or do you have some form of wealth? The man went immediately, combed his hair, put some oil to it, took a bath, wore new clothes and came to the Prophet ﷺ. The minute the Prophet saw him ﷺ said, Allah the Almighty would like to see the traces of His blessing upon an individual.
Barakallahu feek, ya Sheikh. Inshallah, we'll continue in this discussion, inshallah, but unfortunately we have to go to a break at this moment. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala.
Our schools, what is missing? Join Dr. Mamdoor Muhammad in Our Schools, What is Missing? He will be discussing the most common mistakes made in our educational systems.
What type of teaching they teach him, what they say to him, what books they select for him to read, what things that he listens to, what games that he begins to play with.
How to perfect the work in the school.
Our goal is to improve our school.
And we'll see practical solutions from the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of His Messenger.
Most of the criteria for success for us had been designed for us by our Creator.
Our Schools, What is Missing? In Ramadan on Huda TV.
Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. We're discussing the issue of beautification in Islam with Sheikh Asem bin Luqman al-Hakim. Sheikh Asem, you were just discussing a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ saw a man who came into the masjid and he was unkept, his hair was untidy, his clothes were dirty, and so the Prophet ﷺ inquired as to whether this man was poor or not, because if he was someone who had the means to beautify himself, then he should do so. Could you just please continue for us on this issue?
Yes, as you mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ did not like what he saw. And unlike what a lot of us may think, that even if you have money, you should not show it. You should not look as if you have something. And some go to the extreme in trying to show people that they are poor and that they don't have anything to have or to fix themselves. To the extent that I know people that used to give zakat money to wealthy people because they thought that they were needy. Their car was like 50 years old and their clothes were so dirty and torn and they had only one garment to wear, though they had millions in their bank accounts. And this is forbidden. This is not part of Islam. Islam tells you to look good, to smell good. The Prophet himself, ﷺ, as Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, explains, he said that I've accompanied the Prophet ﷺ for 10 years and never had I smelled anything more beautiful than the scent of the Prophet ﷺ. It was more beautiful than musk itself, and his hand was as soft as silk. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This shows us that the Prophet ﷺ took real good care of himself, though he wasn't rich. He had nothing except the food of his family for the day. And we know that he used to have a special garment to meet the envoys who come to ask about Islam or to do a treaty, and he used to wear it when he gives khutbahs, gives speeches in great gatherings such as Eid, Fridays, etc. Therefore, it is unlike what some Muslims may think that you should look miserable to be a good Muslim. This is wrong. Islam tells you be in the middle path. Don't go to extravagance in buying one car of its kind in the world and paying like $50 million.
Or like some people, they have cars made of white gold and diamonds.
Definitely this is un-Islamic. And whoever does this, he is similar to Qarun. Because they're boasting of something that Allah gave them to enjoy, not to go to extreme. And at the same time, not like those who have money, yet they deprive their children from having proper medical care or going to decent schools or wearing normal clothes like everyone else. So Islam promotes beautification. Ibn Abbas, for example, may Allah be pleased with him and with his father, the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, says that when someone saw him taking good care of himself, combing his beard and combing his hair and wearing nice clothes, and said, listen, you're the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and you are one of the most knowledgeable companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and you're doing this? And he said, yes, I'd like to beautify myself for my wife as I like my wife to beautify herself for me. And this is, of course, an indication that women should take good care of themselves for their husbands, not for the non-mahram in the streets or in the markets.
Not like we see in some societies where the woman at home is wearing her pajamas and doesn't have makeup on and she's not pretty in any way, but when she goes out to a restaurant or she goes out with her friends, she really puts on a show.
Unfortunately, this is the norm in a lot of the Muslim houses. Women do not pay attention to their husbands, and this is one of the reasons, of course, that a lot of the husbands look for another wife and look elsewhere because their women are taking care of the children and neglecting the husband. This is not the one I get married to. And it goes both ways for the men. So the wife goes and says, listen, I married a healthy man who was a sports figure, and now he's got this beer belly,
this marriage belly that the men are accustomed
preventing
to.
us from meeting and contacting each other. This is not the norm.
So the man should also take care of himself, make sure that his form is in shape, and generally stay in shape. We see a lot of men, they focus on their careers and they leave off being healthy and being beautiful for their wife and for their children, and in general being a representative of Islam who is upon a beautiful image. Such as the Prophet ﷺ, as you mentioned, Barakallahu Feekum, the Prophet ﷺ, when he met envoys and when he met other people to give them da'wah, he would dress in his best clothes to present Islam in a nice way.
This is completely true. You are representing Islam, so you have to dress likewise. And you have to always take care of yourself for your wife so that your wife would love you more. And the wife should do the same with her husband so that the husband would love her more. And this form of beautification is highly appreciated in Islam. But having said that, there are lots and lots of forms of beautification that are forbidden in Islam.
Could you just mention briefly for us, perhaps, what are some of the forms of beautification that would be forbidden in Islam and why?
Well, if you go through the Quran and the Sunnah, you would find general evidences, general statements that tell us that these forms of beautification are not permissible. For example, Allah the Almighty says in the Quran, "Verily, I will mislead them." And this is shaitan, this is Satan.
Quoting Satan.
Yes. This is what he's saying. Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling that in the Quran. "Verily, I'll mislead them, and surely I'll arouse in them false desires. And certainly I will order them to slit the ears of cattle, and indeed I will order them to change the nature created by Allah." And this is underlined. He will order humans to do things that would change the creation of Allah the Almighty. Allah says, "And whoever takes Satan as a wali instead of Allah has surely suffered a manifest loss." So this is in black and white in the Quran.
So one of the defining principles is not changing what Allah created.
Yes, because if you do this, then you are objecting to Allah's creation, of course within boundaries, and we will get to explain this in more details. Also, the Prophet ﷺ tells us that, as in the hadith of Abdullah bin Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, he said that the Prophet ﷺ said, "May Allah curse the women who do tattoos and the women who have them done, and the women who pluck eyebrows and the women who have that done, and the women who file their teeth for the purpose of beautification, those who change the creation of Allah." So the Prophet is giving us ﷺ the reason for such cursing such women, because they seek the beautification, but while doing so, they change the creation of Allah. And this is the criteria that we should judge all types of beautification, cosmetic surgeries, cosmetics in general, when we come and talk about the issue, inshallah.
So this, barakallahu fikum, is a fundamental principle that we should look at when regarding beautification.
True, this is
it changing the creation? Like you mentioned, plucking the eyebrow, you mentioned filing of the teeth, you mentioned also for women, the tattoos. All of these things are unnatural things, and changing the woman and trying to beautify her in a way that is outside of the form that Allah created them in.
See, the issue is that when you look at contemporary issues, we have things that were done before. And these things what were at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And we have contemporary things that were not at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And they are coming in the tens and hundreds of different forms.
So you mentioned,
go ahead.
You mentioned, for example, plucking of the eyebrows, which was obviously happening in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that he mentioned it specifically. What about bleaching of the eyebrows?
Well, this is something that scholars have disputed upon. Because if you go to the beautification altogether, you'll find that, generally speaking, it is divided into three main categories. If you would like to dissect it and try to categorize it, you'll find that it has, for example, one part talks about the hair on your head and on your body, removing it, adding extensions to it, bleaching it or dyeing it, keeping it. What's the ruling on that? This is one category.
Okay.
The second category is using the color in your body, whether by tattooing or by removing things that are colorful in your body,
By bleaching.
or even by putting something that would add beauty to your body, like makeups. So what's the ruling on that? Again, they did not have makeup at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. The third part comes to what is known as cosmetic surgery. And this has a wide array of topics that one could talk about.
As the doctor was mentioning.
Some of them, yes.
Some of them also.
So whether it's a correctional procedure, correcting the structure of the face or the body, whether it is to correct a deformity or a defect, whether it is to remove harm or something that is not natural, as in the case of changing the skin once it's burned. It can go on to beautifying a fat person into a thin person, enlarging different parts.
Liposuction, for example.
Yes. You also have enlarging different parts of the body for beautification, as the doctor mentioned, removing the wrinkles, etc.
Barakallahu feekum, ya Sheikh. It's always a pleasure to have you. Unfortunately, we're just about out of time for this episode, but we'll continue it in the next episode, bismillah. So please join us again next week. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You can try to hold back the waves, but they will always wash upon your feet. Two waters flow with a barrier in between, the salty sea and rivers fresh and sweet. Everything Allah commands to be will always become a reality. Everything Allah commands to be will always become a reality. Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala.